So today we have the Schecter PT Special. So this is Schecter's version of a Tele, as you can see. And this is a model that's been out for a few years, but I haven't had a chance to really check it out in depth until a friend of mine recently bought this guitar and lent it to me for a few weeks. And I really like this guitar, and I wanted to kind of share it and go through some of the features I like and maybe talk about a few things I would change. So let's do a quick run through of the specs. You've got just kind of typical non-locking tuners here with a synthetic nut. The neck is this maple with a tint on it. So this isn't roasted maple. This is just a regular maple that's been tinted. And you've got this nice binding with a rosewood fretboard. I think the combination looks really nice between the tinted maple and the binding and the rosewood fretboard. You've got decent sized frets. Schecter calls them jumbo. I don't know that they're that big. They're smaller than was on my Van Nuys Traditional, I think. So I'd call these more medium jumbo frets, so they're not huge. But the fretwork is really well done. The nut is cut okay. It could definitely come down a little bit, but overall it's good quality in terms of the construction on the neck. The body is swamp ash. This guitar specifically is very light. I've seen a good variation in how heavy these guitars can be. This one's probably about 7 pounds, so it's actually quite light. You've got this kind of transparent green burst on this one. I actually don't know if they're currently selling this color. I know they do a purple burst like this, but I don't know that the green is still available. The neck joint here is, there's no plate, and you can see you've got 4 bolts, and there's a contour to it, so it's very easy access to the upper frets. It's got that nice handshake, as Phil McKnight talks about. In terms of hardware, you've got an ashtray bridge with your typical Tele saddles. As is usual with a lot of vintage kind of Teles, the screws are sticking up too far and they're quite sharp. I wouldn't think it would be that expensive to have different length screws to put on the saddles, but it's just something that every vintage Tele I come across has, and you've either got to buy different saddles or maybe try to cut the screw down, but it's quite sharp and can be quite uncomfortable. One of the design aspects that I'm not in favor of is, they've got this kind of custom plate shape here, and that requires a custom pickguard shape. And I mean, it looks good. I don't know that I like having the pickup selector down here. I prefer it in the regular Tele spot. But if you wanted to modify this guitar, maybe put a different pickguard on it, change what pickups in the neck or something like that, then you've also got to change this plate here because it's this odd shape, or you need to try to find a Schecter pickguard. So I'm not in favor of that. In my mind, if you're buying that kind of Fender guitar, Tele or Stratocaster kind of models, the ability to customize it, for me, is a great feature for that. So this kind of makes that harder. Now, if we take kind of a regular Tele plate, it is about the right size. So you could probably swap out a regular plate, a regular Tele pickguard, and it would work. But I wish they would just keep the shape the same. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the pickup switch down here low. It's kind of similar to where PRS puts some of their pickup switches. To me, it's too far away. So one thing I'll say about the switch is the angle's not quite right either. It's very up and down, so it's kind of at this angle. I would prefer it was at this angle, so it was easier to switch back and forth. And I'm sure you could rotate this a little bit, but that's out of the box. It's kind of a strange angle. Not only is it very far away, but it's not a very ergonomic angle for the direction of the switch. You've got your regular volume and tone. The tone has a pull. And so when you pull that out, it puts the 2 pickups in series. So it's kind of your typical 4-way Tele configuration where with the switch, you get neck and bridge in parallel, you get bridge. And if you pull this, no matter where the switch is, you get both in series. The other thing I'll say is underneath, it's hollow in here. So going back to my idea about kind of modding the guitar, if you wanted to turn this like into a Nashville Tele, the body's routed for that. You would just have to put a new pickguard and new plate on to do that. So if you can hear that, it's hollow inside. In terms of the pickups, you've got a P90 in the neck, obviously, and a single coil in the bridge. We'll hear the pickups in a minute. Generally, I'll say I don't find that these pickups are well balanced with each other. They sound good on their own, but the P90 is pretty powerful and pretty kind of beefy and dark, whereas the bridge is very trebly, very kind of Tele, and they sound fine, but it's hard to get a guitar tone that can work with both pickups. And I found that I had to kind of crank the P90 as far down away from the strings as I could to get it to balance well with the bridge. So those few nitpicks aside, it's a very comfortable guitar. Probably my biggest complaint is this screw on this low E here. It's just very sharp and very uncomfortable to play. And probably my second complaint would be where the switch is. But let's go ahead and plug it in and hear how it sounds. Okay, so for this demo, I'm going to use my Neural DSP Quad Cortex. I got a preset dialed up that's got everything from clean tones through some mid-gain stuff through maybe some Eric Johnson, Joe Satriani kind of lead tones. I've got most of the effects off. I have a little bit of reverb on the end, but nothing else, just so we can hear the guitar on its own. So we'll start in clean tone, and right now I'm on the neck pickup. So you can hear this P90 is pretty beefy, has a good amount of output. It's starting to break up my clean tone. It's so powerful. And that's with the P90 down pretty low away from the strings. So we go to the middle position. You can hear when you introduce that bridge in there, you get a lot more of that top end because this bridge is pretty bright. We'll go to the bridge on its own. So you can hear it's pretty pokey. Very Tele-ish. And so that's what I meant earlier when I was saying that the pickups to me don't really balance well together. You've got this one, which is kind of very powerful and very kind of low end centric. And then when you go to this, it's very top end and spiky. So it's hard to get a single tone that can handle both. Let's go ahead and go to the series sound. So you can hear when you put them in series, it's super loud. I mean, that is overdriving quite a bit. In fact, it's clipping my Quad Cortex. So let's go ahead and switch to a kind of a mid-gain kind of sound. And we're back on the neck pickup. So you can hear this isn't a super gainy tone, but this P90 in the neck is really pushing it, especially kind of on that low end. If I go to the in-between position, you can hear with the in-between position, it sounds pretty good. You're getting a balance between kind of that low end of this and the top end of this. If I go just to the bridge, so you can hear with this tone, because it's kind of a lower gain with a lot of mid forward, the bridge is sounding pretty good. I like that tone a lot. But again, the neck, it gets a little muddy. So if we go into the series sound, so I think in general, I wouldn't be using this series connection between the P90 and the bridge very often. I think with the P90 being so beefy, it kind of defeats the purpose of going into that series mode. If you've got two single coils here, going into series gives you a kind of a bigger, warmer tone. But since the P90 is already big and warm on its own, I think it just gets muddier when you add in that series mode. So let's go ahead and go to kind of a lead tone here. And we'll start on the neck pickup. And if I go to the in-between, and now the bridge. I like that bridge pickup. When you give it more gain with a little more warmth, it can really sing. So overall, I like this PT Special a lot. You know, it's got Tele style guitar, but you've got some contours here in terms of your arm contour and your belly contour and the access to the upper frets. It's just a very comfortable shape to play. You know, the neck is very comfortable. You've got a 12-inch radius, so just a very kind of not too flat, not too vintagey, nice middle of the road, comfortable guitar to play. The pickups sound good in general. I'm not a huge fan of this P90. It's a little too woofy and beefy for me. I prefer maybe a little less output on it. And I would probably look to change this pickup if I was to buy this guitar myself. You know, I have a few quibbles about the guitar. You know, there's some sharpness here in the bridge. I'm not a big fan of where the pickup selector switch is. But overall, it's a really quality instrument, especially for the price. I think these run list about $699 now, and you can probably find a deal on them. So if you're looking for a Tele style guitar in this price point, I think this competes well, you know, with the Fenders and the Sire T7 and things like that. It's kind of more of a modern vibe, but it's not too modern. It's still pretty vintagey kind of feel. So I think it's a good kind of middle ground, and I think if you're looking for a nice Tele style guitar, this will do pretty well. I hope you found this helpful, and thanks for watching.